Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Zeta Perspective right here on Rebellious Ufology. I'm so happy to welcome you to today's show on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. I saw Enzo is on Twitch. Yes. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, I also have a morning show right here on Rebellious Ufology that I'd love for you all to come see me at. Every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, I give you the UFO podcast daily lineup where I've been working with other podcasters to get their info so I can tell you who's on that day, what time they'll be on, and what they'll be talking about. So you can get your day scheduled. There's so many great shows now. And if you like what you see here today, consider joining the rebellion by hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to ring the bell so you get notifications on all of our videos. You can also follow me on, I changed my name. Okay, you can follow me on Twitter at Rebellious UFO. And yes, I said it that way on purpose because it's fun. And Instagram at Rebellious Ufology. So on this show, The Zeta Perspective, we'll be talking about all things with regards to experiencers. So whether you consider yourself an experiencer, a contactee, or an abductee, or even if you're just curious as to what it's all about, this is the place for you, my friend. We have Paul Hamden and Cyan joining us. They're both lifelong experiencers and have weekly, if not daily, ongoing contact with the Zetas. According to their website, the Zeta Connection, and there's a link to that in the description down below, they state the Zetas are aware that they are misunderstood and have been misrepresented over the years. They'd encourage a person to take the time to reevaluate what they think they know and become acquainted with the information that they have given and proven themselves. And that's exactly what we're here to do in this show. Look at the information and examine it from all perspectives to see if we can come to understand it better. This will be a weekly call-in show, so you guys are welcome to call in today. I'll give you the link in just a few minutes so that you can speak directly with Paul and Cyan and ask them your questions. If you have an experience or story you want to share, I'm sure they'd love to hear it. So they will be here every week, and that way everybody will get a chance to talk with them, and they have so much information for us. For those who don't want to be on camera, it's totally fine if you want to join in just on audio, or if you prefer, you can always ask questions in the chat. And just a reminder before we start, if you do ask a question in the chat, please type it in all caps so that I can see it easier. Also, if you know someone who might enjoy this conversation, please feel free to share the love, share the show so that they too can join us. And if you're so inclined and would like to please the YouTube gods, please give this show a like and leave a comment down below. I always love reading all your comments. Okay, so with that, I think we are ready to start the show. Let me get organized, everybody. Let's see who's here really quick, too. Hey, Enzo, how are you? Oh, did you switch? No, you're not on Twitch. That was me. Oh my gosh. I got to pull it together, Lynn. Pull it together. It was my response. It went out to Twitch. Oh, well. Okay. Maybe someday somebody will be on Twitch watching us. Hi, Enzo. Thank you for the cake. I always love it. My flock is everywhere is here. How are you? All right. Hey, Rob. Nice to see you here. Dave Hurley is in the house. Thank you. Love the music at the beginning, as always. Let's see. Oh, you guys are chatty. Ghost Dragons. Yay. You made it. I'm so excited to see you here. I know Ghost Dragons is going to have a lot of questions too. Oh, thank you so much, Enzo. My hair is on point today, eh? We'll see. It's a little less crazy than usual. Hi, David. Just wanted to say hi. Off to work shortly. Well, I hope you have a great day. Okay, guys, so let's bring Paul and Cyan on the show so we can get started and you guys can talk with them. Hi, Paul and Cyan. How are you?
G'day, how are you?
Hello.
I'm doing well. And thank you both for coming on. They've just been traveling for 32 hours to the UK. So if they're a little jet lagged, it's understandable. My goodness, I can't believe you're like awake and upright. I think I'd be.
We might give some strange answers. That's
Keep the questions simple.
We will see what we can do. Oh my goodness. I love it so much. Ghost Dragon says hello again. Is that the same? Okay, yeah. So we're going to talk all things kind of not only just Zeta, but just ET perspective, right? Like, or things from what am I trying to say? From a slightly different perspective than you often hear when it comes to experiencer information. And and or the interpretation of that information. So one of the things that I like that you do is that you want evidence-based experiences. Can you kind of tell everybody a little bit about that? Because I'm not sure that we covered that last time.
Yeah. You see, this is the whole issue with ufology and contact, is the fact that people just accept anything that they read, or like, I'm not saying they do all the time, but you need to put it through some sort of a filter. I think it's really important to evidence your contact. And if, say, you've got a guide, you're working with a guide, and the guide's telling you things, then you need to ask them to evidence themselves in a way that is factual to you. If you're getting extraterrestrial contact, or you believe you're getting some type of contact, whether it's dream state or in the physical, you need to then ask them to evidence themselves as well. So that's what we talk about with evidence. Like, you're unwell and you ask them to heal you, and they do. Well, there's evidence. So there's lots of ways to get evidence as well.
Absolutely. And then, so what do you consider like factual evidence or some like concrete type of evidence that you have this interaction?
Well, personally, I I have people with me when the craft comes. So the first time I had 3 friends with me, and the Zetas showed themselves through the side of a craft. It was only about 10 meters away. The second major event, I had about 20 people with me, and the Zetas came out of the craft and walked around. So from my perspective, I think this is the real issue. So let's say an extraterrestrial comes to a person and says, I'm here to work with you. Oh, okay, great. Where do you come from? I come from wherever. So you can't really evidence that they're telling you that. And then you go, well, are you in a 3-dimensional space? Yeah, we're 3-dimensional. Okay, well, can you bring a craft? Oh, no, we can't do that. Well, why not? If you're 3-dimensional and you're extraterrestrials and you say you're here to help humanity, then can you bring a craft? Well, if they still say no, then you've got to ask yourself, well, why are they really there? But if then they say that they're interdimensional, and you'd have to look at what are they saying, how are they saying it, what are the promises that they're making, are they keeping those promises that they make as well? Because if you don't clarify the evidence that you get, and it is some sort of telepathic or mind-to-mind conversation that you're having with them, your own mind has the ability to mirror what they say. And it may be that you are getting contact, but you then end up blocking them because your own mind takes over and you create what's called a subconscious spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with a lot of people. Or you get a spirit person, say an earthbound, that's pretending to be an extraterrestrial, and we see this a lot. And the spirit people, they love it. They think that it's quite amusing.
I'm sure.
Well, I guess it would be,
Yeah.
And they don't evidence themselves at all. So that's another thing.
So what if they're interacting with an extraterrestrial that is not 3D? So say something a little more
non-corporeal.
Yeah. Then how do you evidence that?
Well, I'll give you an example. Say you're interacting with a celestial, like an angel, an angelic entity. Then you can ask that being, how can you evidence yourself to me? It's okay for us to come up with some suggestions, but since they're of a higher vibration state, they should be able to tell you how that they will evidence themselves. Okay. Another thing is it could be, it's quite simple. You would say, well, what's your role? And they may go, well, we're healers. Oh, okay, great. I know people that need healing. Would you like to give them some healing? Okay. Well, I'll bring them here next week, and can you come and heal them? You see what I mean? Like, so there's ways and methods to validate even interdimensional or non-corporeal entities as well.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to tell everyone too, because Paul and Cyan were so generous to come on even when they're jet lagged. We're only going to do the show for an hour today. So if you guys do have questions, ask them now. Don't forget to put them in all caps as well so that we can see them. So how often is it? I've always been curious about this. Like, is it a common thing for people to have interactions with celestials or angels?
This is a real issue. I mean, how can you tell what somebody else's experience is if they haven't evidenced that for themselves? We could suggest that. I'll give you an example. Okay, so we've got a spirit guide that we work with, and we ran a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and the spirit guide said that he was going to bring all the other people's guides through to them.
Mhm.
And he was able to do that. And so because we know that he's able to coalesce all of the energy, he's able to work within the spirit realm, that he was able to evidence, his abilities that way. And I think that that's probably, pretty important. Yeah.
Fantastic. So how did everybody know that their spirit guides were brought forward? Were they having experiences themselves, or how did that work? I'm curious.
That's actually, they were. And so, you can imagine that a lot of the people there, they didn't have any mediumistic abilities. And that's why it's up to the guides that are trained to work in those areas to bring those people's guides to them so they can evidence themselves, the person can evidence their relationship with their guide. There'll be some type of connection that the person will have. But while this was happening, there were no words that were being spoken to them. There was no way that they were being influenced by any words that were spoken. They were only being spoken to by their own guides at that time, while they were in an altered state. Look, it's interesting how people, come about with relationships, how celestials and others would evidence themselves. It's not straightforward, which is an issue.
Yeah, it's a very individualistic process.
Yeah.
Some people may not be able to hear words spoken in whatever way that they are, but they might be very good at receiving visual imagery that they can learn to interpret over the years. So the guides, the spirit guides, whoever guides, they will try and get to their person in whatever way they can. So they'll often have to test the waters, just like a medium has to learn how to connect. The guides or spirits, whoever working with you, need to learn, what's this person most receptive to? What ability do they have? What ability can be worked on to increase? So it's a testing process from both sides in many respects.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part too, I think. Like, because I know for me, I get information just in my head. I'm claircognizant, so it just kind of comes into my head. So it's in my own inner voice, right? It's not like a separate voice or anything like that. And so I'm constantly questioning it. Like, is this just my brain doing this? So that's the hard part for me, I think, is just determining what is what is our brain and what is outside information coming in.
Yeah, so and that's why you would document, what you're being told, and then wait to see if it manifests, and if it doesn't, or some part of it may, and the rest doesn't. So over the time that you're documenting everything, you'll be able to work out, well, what is my mind telling me compared to what is an entity telling me.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Oh my gosh, I gotta move this microphone. I keep smacking it like once every show, I think. Let's see. Big Box has a question. What if your UFOs are just naturally blurry, not just us taking blurry pics?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because of the fact that a lot of them are working under compression, remember we talked about, I think it was in the last show as well. I think a lot of people, the expectation is that if I've got an iPhone and I'm going to take a picture of a craft, that I'm going to get this crystal clear image. Probably not, because the technology is going to be interfered with initially.
If your phone even works.
If your phone even bothered to work and the battery didn't die. And then, of course, the craft itself would be vibrating at a frequency that the technology would, you know, like say the screen on a laptop will refresh, say, 70 times a second. That'll be the same thing as the craft will be refreshing. And so when you take that photo, it could be blurry. And, you know, I know that people go, oh, you know, we want evidence, give us the photos. You know, you've got a brand new phone, it should be really clear. You're dealing with technology that's operating at frequency.
Yeah.
And we know that because people get burnt. And also, wasn't it Gary Nolan that's done the process where they were looking at fighter pilots that have approached UFO, and it's actually altered their brain chemistry? Have you heard about that? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting study.
Wow. Oh wait, yeah, I think I have. They're yeah, I didn't know they had done a study. I thought they were like going to be looking at the effects that it might have, but that's fascinating.
I had someone talking about it the other day, so I thought it may have been complete, but if it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not sure what this is. If this makes sense, the lady in the light talks. It's like singing. I don't know what that means. Ghost dragons. Do you guys know anything about that?
I'm not sure. There'd have to be some context to that.
Who is the lady in the light?
Yep.
You're right. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. The unknown was telling a story, and I was just like, "Oh, well, come on!" But it was in like bits and pieces. He says, "I have a story one day when I was sleeping and woke up suddenly, saw an alien in my room, took my baseball bat in my hands. I was scared. Hit the alien on the head. Found out it's my brother."
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Ghost dragon. Okay, so he's talking about the lady in the light. She comes to me in my dreams and astral projections. The lady in the light. I don't know who that would be.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the question is though. If she's got if he's got somebody coming to them via astral projections.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know that he has a question so much. Maybe he just wants your thoughts. He's saying that there's the lady in the light talks. It's like singing. Oh, so when she talks, it sounds like singing. She comes to me in my dreams and astral projects. So have you ever heard of anything like that?
I probably would just document it and wait and see what happens with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you're able to understand what she's saying.
Well, quite often the phenomenon, if we want to call it that, comes in so many different forms that the only way that we can understand what's being given to us is to document it. And once we document it, we can see a pattern in the behavior.
Okay. I was just saying, trying to figure out if it's ET or heavenly.
And that's what I'm saying as well. Yep. Because it does come via the dream state, or via the astral states as well, that I would probably just document it and see if I could pick up any key words. Also, I would also wait and see if something happened the next day. And when you had that contact, if the next day something happened, then I would try and see if it related to what was taking place.
Yeah. Now, when something like that happens, and you're waiting to see if something kind of happens to validate it, does it usually happen fairly quickly, or is there like a length of time that, 4 weeks down the road, something happens and it reminds you like, oh yes, this is what this being was saying? Or is it usually relatively close time-wise?
It depends on the guide. It depends on what they're trying to do. It could be that tomorrow you need to be aware of something that's going to take place. And so it'll be for tomorrow. Whereas if it's something that's like, you're going to have an accident, you need to be careful, then you'll need to, sort of remember what you were shown you were wearing on that day or something. This actually happened to me. I was, had a dream I was wearing a yellow raincoat on a motorbike and, I hit a car. And about a year later, it was raining. I threw a raincoat on and was riding a motorbike, and I suddenly realised that I'd had a dream a year ago, and I hit the brakes, and a car came out from nowhere, and if I hadn't have hit the brakes, it would have run right over the top of me. So for me, it's more about just being aware that some of these prophetic dreams that you're getting don't really have a time frame. They're just information, and if you don't act on it, well, it's really can be quite unfortunate.
Wow, that's crazy. My goodness. Okay. He's also saying, okay, been going on for a while now. She tells me things. I do keep notes.
Oh, good. That's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. The Unknown 1920 has a question. I have a question. If aliens really visit Earth, why NASA can't find their planet yet, or is it just a hoax?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what NASA are doing. That's the first thing. I think that if the phenomenon or UFO or extraterrestrials or whatever wanted to be known, they would be known. But their technology is good at obfuscating the facts, and because of that, it wouldn't matter what technology you tried to point at them, it probably wouldn't work correctly anyway.
Yeah.
And the thing is I can understand why people would think that it's a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, you've got so many people that are all saying, well, I've had contact. We've got whole schools, like Zimbabwe and in Melbourne as well, Australia. Hundreds of kids all saw the same thing. And, it could be, there's, potential for it to be a mass psychosis event. But then you've got them as adults all saying the same thing and agreeing with each other. I mean, at some point, we have to ask ourselves, is the phenomenon doing this on purpose to cause the confusion? Or is it just that we are so used to believing in the programming that we've got as we were being brought up, that we find it difficult to believe something that's outside of that process?
Yeah. Now, why do you think that if it were the first, that the ETs are making it convoluted on purpose? Why do you think they would do that?
I don't think that humans are ready for disclosure at all, in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I just look at what's happening on the planet right now, and I can't even imagine us making contact with races.
Yeah.
I mean, there's individuals that would like to do that and would like to present a cohesive face for a species of humans, but what are we going to present? What are we going to present? That's the problem. Are we going to do we put the UN up there, or what do we put up there as being the model for human behavior?
Yeah.
It's
not looking so good.
It's not looking real good.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say, if I were an ET looking down, I'd be like, I'm all set. Thanks. Let's see. Okay, so the Unknown has another question. Has anyone on Earth ever spoke with an alien in real life? Has anyone? Do you know of anyone who might have spoken with an ET on Earth?
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing that there's a few people that have. We certainly have ourselves in real life.
Yeah.
But you've got to understand that if you're talking to, say, another race or whatever, they're not going to be speaking to you in English. That's the first thing. They're also going to be using some sort of mind-to-mind connection process.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have the voice box to be able to formulate specific words and sounds, they will just be using the imagery and word structures that are in your own mind to communicate with you. A lot of people get communicated via the dream states. That's the first thing. Other people get communicated with in the astral as well. And then a majority of people, when they're contacted, are contacted etherically, and they're generally unconscious when that takes place. But that is a good question. And I'm pretty sure that there will be plenty of people that have spoken to them in real life,
Yeah.
but then either they don't remember or they've not been given any evidence that allows them to bring that forward and present that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There probably is evidence there, but you know, whether governments want to put that evidence out there for the public's up to them, isn't it?
Oh, well, I'm not going to hold my breath for that one. Has the government put anything out there? So we've got Enzo here coming on with us. Hey, Enzo, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Paul,
Yeah.
Cyan, thank you for being here again today.
Nice to meet you.
Had just a quick question. You touched lightly on it last week, but I still see a lot of chatter on like UFO Twitter and in the chat rooms. A lot of folks seem to think if international politics were to escalate from where they currently are, that aliens would just swoop in and save us from our own devices. I was wondering if you could give us your take on that. What would it take for that level of interference?
I think that, and this is very serious, you know, like it's not, we all know this could be very serious. We all hope that there would be some external intervention, but my hunch is that they're not going to intervene. And that's the real issue. They'll intervene in things that can change in consciousness. So if you can not affect somebody's free will, but affect a change, then that'll take place. But you've got to ask, if someone was going to try and take over the planet, they would probably want some type of infrastructure in place. If not, then what is the problem with letting all of these nukes go off, I guess? I mean, you then leave the planet, come back in 1,000 years, and apart from the radiation, I guess, the planet would have basically, grown over all the buildings and all the rest of it. So I think that the whole thing about waiting for extraterrestrials to save the human race is just a waste of time.
I feel the same way. I'd like to think maybe if it was something that was outside of our control, like the big asteroid of doom kind of a thing, maybe they might give it a nudge or something like that. But as far as something like our own internal strife amongst each other, that's like you said, a free will thing. That's up to us to fix.
Yeah.
What if like nuclear weapons get involved? Do you think they intervene then?
Look, this is just my opinion. I don't believe so. I think that we need to stop right now and take responsibility for the behaviour, because if people somehow think that doesn't matter how bad the behaviour is, that extraterrestrials are going to step in, then that's opening up a whole can of worms, because that means people will just sort of go and do whatever they want. I don't believe that they're going to intervene.
Yeah,
I agree. It's just a bigger stick when you're getting up to the nuke level. It's still something we made. It's still something we wield. Unless because there's been theories about like when we first started the nuclear weapons testing, before in World War II, that kind of drew everybody's attention in the galactic neighborhood. That hey, what are the apes doing over there?
Yeah,
and it's there has been some theories that maybe there's that tremendous release of energy does have interdimensional damage that could be done. I could maybe see something like that for as far as interference, but I haven't seen that. There's been plenty of above ground and below ground tests ever since then.
I'm not sure if you've read any of the free books, A Primer of the Zeta Race and the Zeta Interviews. They're free to download. They're books that I've written with a scientist. There was some discussion from the Zetas about when these weapons are used, about the interdimensional damage that does take place. So that's probably one reason why they may step in. But if a species is determined to destroy itself, I don't think any species can, because there's other ramifications. So let's say that the button gets pressed, it's all happening, and suddenly all these craft turn up and it's all over. Well, there's a level of disclosure that nobody wanted.
Right.
And it won't be just those weapons that are neutralized, it would be all technology that would be neutralized, is a theory of mine only. And then, as Einstein said, the next World War IV would be fought with sticks and stones. So,
yeah, that's a little extreme the other way. And I often think of like a galactic neighborhood kind of a thing. It's like, I don't know if I want these guys as neighbors if that's the way they're going to be.
Absolutely. I mean, and like if they move out in any methodology, it's more like, oh well, thanks for leaving.
Yeah.
Our property values just went up. Okay.
Yeah. I always say we're the bad neighborhood. Roll your windows up, kids. We're going near Earth. Yeah, but I mean, I think that makes sense too, because it's not their responsibility to save us. We are capable of making our own decisions. We're conscious beings, right? And I know so many people want to think that they're here to help. They're here to do all of these things for us, and they wouldn't let us destroy ourselves. But I'm with you guys. I don't think it's their responsibility to do that. It's our responsibility to save ourselves.
It's our mess to clean up. We made it. It's on us.
Yeah. Don't you think the current situation though is bringing everybody up to a point where we need to draw a line in the sand and say, look, this is what we believe. This is what we stand for. And I think globally that everybody's being brought to that level. What will I accept as being bad behaviour from people on a global scale? Yeah.
There's a whole generation, if not two, since the fall of the Soviet Union that didn't have that overarching threat hanging over their head. That people above a certain age dealt with as, well, that's the reality. Let's live life to the fullest because we don't know when the end's going to come.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of getting that reality slapped back in their face. And I see the horror at some of the live imagery coming out on social media. It's like, good, you should be horrified. War is hell. You don't want this. You need to.
Yeah, no, I agree absolutely. I'm on Reddit. If you have a look, there's a lot of the unfiltered stuff on there, and it's pretty much in your face. And I keep thinking to myself, there are other generations, younger generations, that would never have seen or experienced anything like this, and it must be in some way very difficult for them to collect that information and understand what's going on, because they've never seen this sort of behavior before.
Yeah. So do you think that and I agree with you, I do think that it is kind of waking people up. What is going on, as horrible as it is, it also is having the effect of waking people up to, this is not okay. Do you think that mindset will continue once this comes to a conclusion, whatever that is? Because I know sometimes as humans, we in the moment are very determined, very motivated, this is not okay. But then, 2 years down the road, when everything is back to normal, we kind of lose that and kind of like, so if we raise our consciousness by this, which hopefully we will it stay that way? That's the question in my mind.
No, it won't. And the thing is there'll always be the behaviours that always rise to the surface. And, the Schumann frequency is constantly sort of pulling people down. So, as I've said, you can meditate, you can go up in consciousness, you can sit in that, and you feel great, and then you come out of your meditation, and within an hour, 2 hours or whatever, depending on what the situation is, you feel you're back down to where you were again. And it'll be the same with the behaviours. And from a biblical perspective, there's a thing that says there's wars, and always will be, and there always will be. That's just the way that humanity is.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, if the creators of the human species, the Anunnaki, if that's true, then the Anunnaki themselves are a warring race, and that humanity is actually only repeating what their creators are doing.
Mm.
I remember the Zetas saying once in a sitting that all races go through this in the beginning.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's always disharmony. You know, we always try to make people realize there's not just one race of greys. There's actually, I mean,
63.
63. And one of them is ejected from the overall species because they won't be of service to others. They've remained at service to self level, you know, so it's something they do understand. Yeah.
So now I'm curious, is that which race of greys is that? Is that the abductor race?
Yeah, we refer to them as the abductors. Zetas refer to them as the abductors. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Would they have a reason to interfere? Like we're, I don't know I don't imagine any of us really know the extent of it. It's like if we're their experiment or cattle or whatever we are to them, if we were to obliterate ourselves, that takes us out of their test profile. Would they? Not that they would. I mean, I agree in the long run overall, but just throwing it out there.
Well, you know, are you going to go down to the abattoirs and intervene in the truckloads of cattle that got, you know, slaughtered yesterday? No. And, you know, you could be a steak eater as well. So, you know, I think, look, at some point, I think that humans need to take responsibility for their behavior.
I 100% agree. I have one last quick question. I'll jump out of here and let somebody else have a turn. Through all your experiences, does it wake you up in the middle of the night? Could it be any time of day or night? Do you have a do not disturb sign? It's like, hey, not before the first cup of coffee. Now you can lay it on me. Or is it just when it comes, it comes?
When it comes, it comes. Yeah. Any time of night, all night, 3 nights on the trot, 7 nights on the trot, maybe nothing for a couple of weeks. You know, it's just not up to us.
Yeah. Do they ever come when you want them to come?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they do.
Oh really? That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to jump out and let somebody else hop in if they want, or more questions from the chat. And love y'all here on the show.
Yeah. Thanks, Enzo. I saw some questions in the chat as well. So.
All right, let's see. Let me see if I can.
Something about
really quick. What is this one? Does Bob Lazar help scientists in making another UFO, or is it possible to make a clone of a UFO? Do you know anything about whether or not we have the capabilities to make a UFO?
I'd say that
it wouldn't be a UFO.
It wouldn't be an unidentified flying object. It would be an FO. It would be a flying object. But I understand the question. Yeah. I would suspect, though, that there is technology that's, been back engineered from the past, and they've got some level of technology that they understand now. Mm-hmm. But I'd have to sit and think about that question, or even speak to the Zetas about it, because is it possible for humans to make a craft? They could make some sort of a craft, but not the craft that the races are building.
Yeah.
So do you think then, just to kind of expand on that, or have they ever told you whether or not they or any other race are working with humans to kind of increase our capabilities technologically speaking?
I think in the beginning they did indicate that, back in the 1940s and 50s, that they were supporting some of the advances in technology. But I would suggest that I've heard the saying that the craft were gifted, and that, we've said that that's not true at all. And of course, because if they had have been a gift, then we wouldn't be in a situation we're in now. They would have fully explained how that technology worked all those years ago, and that technology would now be as part of our normal technological infrastructure, but it isn't. And in some respects, I'm glad it isn't, because when you see what's going on the planet, would you really want craft that could travel and deliver weaponry at that speed at this point?
No, definitely not. Rob has a question. Which race would be short and bald with a rounded type head? And then he specified a small rounded type head.
Rob, have you got any more information, like how many fingers they've got? Was the head a helmet? Or was it just the beam? I need some more specifics, maybe. Can you come online if you want with a camera?
Yeah, Rob, if you, I'm curious too, is this something you saw yourself? Now, are there Greys? So we always hear of Greys kind of having, or the Zetas having, like a disproportionately larger head. Are there any that do have what we would consider a more proportionate sized head?
I'd say the smaller ones do.
Yeah.
It's perspective, isn't it? This is the thing, is how are you seeing them? That's the first thing. Are you seeing them the way that they want to be seen, or are you seeing them through, a dream state or something? I know that the different races have different shapes. Some present in a different way. So that is a good question. I've also seen races that show themselves different colours as well, depending on how old they are. They'll show themselves as that colour. But the Greys definitely have rounder heads. But that question, that you could sort of flesh that out a bit.
Yeah. Oh, Arden Paranormal is saying the same thing. Basically, I was just going to ask that if they're only letting you see them in a certain way.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to say the reptilians, they could easily project, or even, the Greys, they could project imagery. And we know that they do that. Some people may see a clown or an owl or some specific type of thing, and then next thing they have missing time. Projection. Humans are easy to project to information to. Rob says, not sure, seemed to be a biological type head with 3 to 4 foot tall. Was born and woke up north, sort of dark. Could be a grey for sure. Yeah, that's it. Look, the way you're saying that, it sounds like that.
Yeah. You've seen 3 to 4 foot tall.
Yeah, sure.
Are they able to move that quickly? Saw it dart across the room. Yeah. Awesome. That's cool. Wait, he's got more. I went back to sleep, then went to the bathroom and went through normal routine as if my body wouldn't allow me to do more.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Ghost Dragons has a question. Are the smaller Greys like clones?
The theory is that, other people's theories are that these clones are just, biological entities that are sort of run by AI. But we know that there's the capacity for them to create a clone of their own form and then populate that clone using their own consciousness or the consciousness of another being. I guess it's splitting hairs if we say whether it's consciousness or AI. So would you say they're clones? The interaction I've had with them, I'd say no. But I would suggest that if you didn't have good contact with the race, it would seem like that they were clones.
So I have a question, and I know one other person who has described their interaction with the smaller Greys in the same way that I do. but usually I don't hear it this way. Which was, to me, they came across as very childlike. So I'm curious, is it possible that I saw children of their race? Do they ever allow children to interact with humans?
In what way were they childlike?
I only remember a very like singular moment, and I think I was laying down just based on my perspective, but they were kind of like peering up over the table, looking at me like it was just very curious. You know, they were like childlike curiosity. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh, absolutely. We, because we're mediums, and obviously the Zetas can speak through us, as can spirits, because we're trance mediums. But we've also seen a situation where they wanted to have us hold a clock, and they wanted to examine the clock. They then also wanted, like we had a bird in a cage and brought the cage in, and they wanted to just sit and examine the cage and the bird. Also, they like to examine everything. They want to observe all these different animals. So, yeah, I mean, there's the capacity for them to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought they were adorable. And I know other people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that, but they just had this very sweet energy to them. Rob has more of his story. Also had a lighted geometric light cube on the ceiling the same night, watched it spiral and change, went to sleep, then woke back up and texted a friend. When I woke the next morning, I saw where I'd text him and knew something, in fact, had happened the night before. That was smart, Rob.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it as well. So quite often, if something's going on, you jump up on your phone, leave yourself a message, and then that light cube or that orb or whatever may put you into a trance state or an altered state. You then interact with them in any way that they want to, and in the morning you can't remember because you've been given a type A screen memory. But if you pick your phone up and you go, oh hey, no, hang on, that can trigger the screen memory to drop.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I know people that record their audio, and one person last week recorded their session at night for 8 hours, and we were able to get a range of clicking that the Zetas were doing when they were interacting with the person. And because I've got a library of them speaking in audio, all different type of clicking, we were able to match that up.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So do you know what this lighted geometric light cube would be? That's interesting.
No, there'd have to be more. See, this is the thing, it's got to be more information. That lighted cube could just be an orb that represents itself as a cube, as a geometric shape.
Or it could be technology.
Or it could be any technology.
Yeah.
You've got to be on the spot and be able to ascertain through some type of conversation what does that technology do.
Yeah, that's an interesting one though, a lighted cube. Okay, hold on a second. I think he's also referring back to the beings. What I saw appeared to be the size of a child, smaller than the 3 grays I knowingly saw as a teen.
Rob, were they about 2 feet tall, if that, even about 18 inches?
All right, let's see. We'll see what he says. That's interesting. Smaller, so it sounds like they were really little.
I've seen them about that high, so that's 2 feet.
Yeah. And now are they full grown at that size, or
are
they just like
that's it.
Really
full grown? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What are they saying? Same here. I think he's talking to Ghost Dragon. I wonder if I'm experiencing different types of phenomena. I experienced dark entities and a ghost as a child regularly and still do from time to time. He answered. It looked as if someone had carved a piece of wood and was shining a light. Oh, this is the box. Shining a light through the pattern, cut through it, and then it began to spiral.
Yeah. And that could have just been something that was to capture attention. And then while that was taking place, you were placed into an altered state.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But for sure, it would serve a function.
Mm.
You know, it wouldn't just be something that was hanging there. It would actually be performing a function.
Yeah. So is that something that like ETs will do often, is like look over here at the pretty lights and then while
Yeah,
we go and do something else?
yeah, absolutely. That's classed as a type B screen memory.
Hmm. So okay, so let's we have a few minutes left because I don't want to keep you guys. I know how like tired you must be. So let's talk briefly because we touched on this just a little tiny bit, but can we just so that we know, maybe this can be our starting point for next week.
Yeah.
What are the different classifications that you guys have come up with for screen memories?
Okay, so we've come up with 4 types just from discussions and from our own experiences.
Mhm.
Type A, when you're missing time. So something's happened, or you've been driving along, and next thing it's 4 hours later, you have no idea what's taken place. And I had a friend message me the other day. He was telling us that it had taken him 8 hours to get somewhere, even though it was only a 3-hour trip.
Oh wow.
They calculated that he would have had to have driven at 20 miles an hour to take that long to get there. And that's what's classed as a type A screen memory, because obviously he's got missing time and he doesn't know what was happening. And of course, he's woken up and the car's only 100 miles down the road or something. So class B is when you're believing you're performing a function, whether that's holding a baby or driving a craft. But while that's actually taking place, something else is happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're distracting your mind.
So it's a distraction, and there's type B. Type C screen memories, and then, we came up with this classification ourselves. Type C, something happens to you when you're 20 years old and you don't remember it, and then one day when you're 40, the screen memory drops, and it's linked to the biological time clock that you've got. That at some point something triggers it, and the screen memory drops, and you can remember that you had an encounter. And D is a completely different type of screen memory. It's where, and we'll have to discuss this at another time, but a fully trained hybrid is able to place somebody else, another human, into a synthetic quantum environment. And in doing so, you place the screen memory on that human yourself.
Wow. So I'm going to ask a bit of a controversial question, and I think this is in regards to type B, where that's the one where you're doing one activity. You think you're doing one, but they're actually doing like, hey, don't look at the man behind the curtain kind of situation. So, and I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think this is everyone in the hybrid program. I think that people certainly do have experiences, but I'm just curious if this is a possibility that people are being given that experience of, oh, this is your hybrid baby. But really there's something else going on, and that's not necessarily the case. Would they ever do something like that?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that a lot of people think that certain things have happened to them, or they're just a script, a movie script that the person's been given. I believe that while that you're being given that information, and you have to remember, we've had thousands of hours of contact. Right? We've also dealt with thousands of people as well, and so we've listened to their stories, we've worked with them, and we've understood that there's a lot of misdirection that takes place. And that's because the local construct, which is the mind, doesn't really have the capacity to withstand contact. And because of that, you'll always get deflection and misdirection.
Now, I'm assuming, though, at some point you can train yourself, or you can get to the point where maybe you can withstand contact. I mean, you guys are having conscious contact, right? So is that possible for every person to do?
I'd say that it's on an individual basis, person by person. What is your desire and will to want contact, cognizant contact? How much time are you willing to spend doing that? And what are you willing to accept as being contact? Will you, when the fear happens, when they come, will you stand up and not fight, but will you demand conversation rather than abduction? And I think a lot of people think that in the moment they've got what it takes to do that, but I would suggest that it's so different than what people would normally expect of themselves that it may not be possible for a lot of people. And this is the whole problem with disclosure, that disclosure won't take the form that humans want. It never will.
So what form do you think it will take then?
I think that a lot has to change on this planet before proper contact will take place. I think that will have to observe a different pattern of behaviour from humanity as a whole. They'll have to see a more of service to others mentality rather than service to self. And if they start to see that, then I think that's when we'll start to see changes.
And then just kind of like a technical, I guess, question regarding something like that happening, like disclosure happening and open contact. Will we as a group of beings have to somehow kind of raise our vibrational frequency or something in order to, because from the things that you've told me about interacting with the Zetas, is their energy is so strong and it's difficult to be around. Is there some sort of evolution that we'll have to go to in order to have kind of that continued open contact?
Yeah, you're going to definitely need to have an expansion of the etheric body. You're going to need to be able to hold frequency as well. So I'm not sure if anybody, well, I have to come up with some examples. So you may have been in a situation where you felt like you were being blasted by EMF, or you may have suddenly felt unwell because there was some sort of frequency coming at you or some sort of energy. If you haven't been able to hold your state, your grounded state when that takes place, then that's going to be an issue. So you'd need to be able to hold yourself in frequency, and that's called strength of mind training. Yeah, and generally you'll see that the Buddhists and those people that meditate are able to withstand certain things because they have an ability to hold their mind in a certain state as well.
You know what? Oh, I know I need to let you go, but I have one question. You just reminded me of something, and I've always been curious as to what it was that I saw. So there was a time a couple years back where I was I call it my cocooning year, where I was just kind of like insulating myself from the rest of the world. I was doing hours of meditation every day. And one time while I was driving, you know how when we drive, we can kind of get into that dissociative state if it's a route we do all the time, every day. And I was driving to go pick my kids up. And their school was about 20 minutes away at that point in time. And all of a sudden, I realized I looked around and I could see everything like I normally would, but almost like a layer over that was like, the best way I can describe it is like gold, like a blueprint almost for each thing, you know? So it was just like almost like the energetic structure of everything around me. It was very cool. I remember like in the moment, I was just kind of like, wow, this is amazing. And I wanted to like remember it. So I was, studying everything because I was trying to figure out what was going on. What is that?
That's called quanta. So that's in the primer of the Zeta race. Quanta is the blueprint for all things that hold a state of matter.
Interesting. All right. Cool. Well, I will go check it out because I have downloaded that. And if you guys want to, I have also put in the description the page where you can go to download the Zeta primer and the tell me the other one.
The Zeta interviews.
Zeta interviews, of course. So yes, those are both free to download. So I put that in the description. Go get them. It is interesting reading. I know you guys will really enjoy it. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. I know you're sleepy. I appreciate it. I hope, you'll, man, that like time change is the worst. So hopefully it'll come around soon. At least you're going to be there for a while. You'll have time to adjust, but then just in time, you can go right back and have to go through it all over again. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much. And I hope you get some rest. And they will be back here. So we're going to do Wednesdays now. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will do Wednesdays now. And I think while you're in the UK, we were saying this time might work well. But
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So
we'll do a bit longer next week as well.
Yeah, we'll be fine next week. We'll do a couple of hours.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. You get some rest, both of you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Enzo, for coming on with us as well. It was so nice to see Enzo again. Enzo always brings me virtual cake, so I love him.
I need cake. Do you need cake?
Digital cake, yeah.
He does like a little emoji every time he comes on because he knows I like cake.
Yeah.
I have a sweet tooth. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Go get some rest, and I will talk to you next week.
We'll see everybody
Take
next
care.
week. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. And thank you all for your wonderful questions as always. All right, let's do. All right, bye everyone.